Well, if there's one transport sector that needs urgent attention in Nigeria today, it will be the railway, and the federal government has pledged to revamp the system. President Goodluck Jonathan, in a meeting with investors in London last week, affirmed his commitment to connect all state capitals via rail. Our correspondent, Doris Okinwa, takes a look at the London Railway network to find out what lessons can be learned from the British rail system that works.
Getting around in London or the UK as a whole is not such a Herculean task. Between the London Underground, the National Rail Service, among other transport networks, commuting is made easy. 150 years of existence, the London Underground Rail, better known as the Tube, is said to be the oldest, one of the largest and busiest underground rail networks in the world. The Tube network, set like a maze, snaking through countless tunnels beneath the city, has expanded since then to include over 270 stations and 11 lines, covering 402 kilometers, reaching deep into the suburbs and beyond. Paddington Station. This is where the world's first underground railway opened in 1863 by the then Metropolitan Railway Service, serving 6 intermediate stations within the capital between Paddington and Farringdon. The Tube network is by no means perfect, as most Londoners lament the high fares, overcrowding, heat, and sometimes erratic services. But if anything, the system works and provides options between driving high cab fares or buses. Traveling through the Tube, it is easy to beat the traffic overground. Transportation in London is not cheap by any means, but you can't deny the fact that it works. A week's fare, for instance, ranges between £31, that's over 8,000 naira or more, depending on the area of commute. Back-breaking taxes feed these lines. According to official data from the London Transport Services, most of the London network was completed in the first 50 years of establishment through private development. Today, it is managed by the Transport for London office under the purview of the Mayor's office as a public entity with no shareholders or parent companies. Besides the Tube, there is the National Rail, which serves other parts of the UK. It is hard to imagine navigating this country without the railway system. Challenges nonetheless, life is easier. Maintenance works and expansions are always in progress to keep the system up and up. High housing costs in the capital has forced many people to the outskirts and neighboring towns. Some make up to 2 hours journey daily from the hinterlands to London for work. Nigeria is long overdue for a functional rail system, both within the major cities and linking routes among states. There are even more modern rails in some parts of the world like China and Japan. As good as the London rail system is, they are playing catch-up. The Nigerian government seems set to make such a commitment. At the Investors Forum held recently in London, officials explained some of the limitations.
We've come up with a projection of rolling stock requirements over the next 10 years. Rolling stock are the locomotives, the coaches and the wagons. Like you can see on one of our slides, we're talking about locomotives to extent of about 550 required over the next 5 years. What we have today is just 35. We're talking about coaches to the extent of about 1,500. What we have today is barely 200. We've realized that government can just not continue to fund this on its own, and that's why we're here to present to investors.
Bear in mind the noise you hear about Nigeria. You have a security risk here and there. You have Boko Haram and all that. Despite that, Nigeria remains the #1 destination for investment in Africa. Despite that, Nigeria is the biggest economy in Africa. Despite that, billions and billions are coming to Nigeria.
A comparison between Nigeria and Britain is not the aim here. The point is about laying the right foundations. Having the political will to implement and sustain a vision is an example worth following.
You appreciate the fact that the railway has been comatose for over 2 decades. Up until 2009, and particularly this period when Mr. President came on board, that the railway has been revived. We have gone a long way already. We have rehabilitated the existing narrow gauge in the Western Line from Lagos to Kano. Services have resumed, passengers and goods have been transported.
In the next few months, we're going to be completing the Port Harcourt all the way to Gombe section of the narrow gauge lines, and in first quarter next year we'll be trying that route, starting services, passengers and freight from Port Harcourt all the way to Gombe. Likewise, passenger services from Abuja to Kaduna. So that is what we have running now.
The rail system in Britain or other countries that have made a success of it is a product of clear vision sustained through various administrations. Here's a thought. How sustainable are the current efforts of the Nigerian government for a railway that will stand the test of time, say 50 years from now? The answer lies in the actions that will unfold. Doris Okenwa reporting for Channels Television News, London.